So, to honor the season of rebirth, I decided to catch a resurrection of the classic clash that is Godzilla vs. Kong, directed by Adam Wingard and starring
Lizard. Monkey.
and some humans, I guess. And it was a ridiculous but awesome experience. We open on Skull Island, where a snoozing King Kong rises from the cliff face that is his pillow to greet the day. As forests part in his wake, he happens upon a curiously unfazed little girl, who offers a doll in his likeness. Kong initially seems pleased before hurling a tree skyward to reveal that he's actually in high-tech Kongtainment. Outside, security staff, with whom the girl is collaborating, fret that keeping a lid on Kong isn't sustainable, but the risk of a conflict with Godzilla is too great should he travel abroad. But Goji is already far from docile. At the Apex Cybernetics facility, a conspiracy theorist janitor is mid-hack into his employer's hidden records when the big lizard emerges on the coast and lays waste to the complex. The public at large is shocked by this apparent heel turn. Knowing her late mother's pro-Titan research, Madison Russell's faith is unshaken, and she suspects the attack was for a good cause. Meanwhile, a professor besmirched for his oddball theories is approached by Apex's head honcho with a revelation. The Hollow Earth is not only real but accessible, and within is an energy signature that promises to keep Godzilla in check. But to get there, they'll need Kong's help. And from there, it becomes a journey across the globe to obtain an ancient power that'll give Kong the fighting chance against his nemesis, while Madison and her friends investigate Apex's true motives, all while the target on Kong's back leads him inexorably closer to an earth-shaking duel. As ever, a horror pedigree makes for a cracking good action director, and so it's little surprise that Wingard delivers a flick which veers into the gruesome while still harkening back to retro monster mashes. As to the former, I remain awed by how vicious the violence gets in these films. There's a lot of mouth trauma in particular, especially when Kong starts putting those opposable thumbs to good use. Anything goes as long as the blood is green, I guess. As to the latter, the FX work is really astounding. One could mourn the practical movie magic which founded these series, but Kong mocap has never looked better, and never did I feel pulled out of the spectacle by CGI. Not only was I glad I didn't watch this on HBO Max, I even regretted not attending an IMAX screening, which is kind of a first. It's event pictures like this that remind you that, Hulk notwithstanding, comic booky hero super strength just can't visually compare to super size. Wonder Woman might lift a jet plane, but she's never going to throw it like a paper plane. From studio logos stylized as gnarled fusions of stone and electricity, to a score from blockbuster mainstay Junkie XL which seesaws between synth and heavy drums, the film seems poised to posture its leads as representing technology and the natural world, respectively. However, any potential symbolic weight to their opposition is an afterthought at best. This is basically Kaiju Highlander, with Goji and Kong representing no more than the last of a dying breed, but ready to die hard. And for ease of viewing, King Kong is red and Godzilla is blue. And so we get 3 fights with Kong and Godzilla, which is enough, but also pretty much what you'd expect. 1 point for the home team, 1 point for away, and a hat trick where they team up to take down the big bad. It's a sobering trend among franchise face-offs that neither side emerges a clear victor, partly to ensure further sequels and partly to not alienate fans by ostensibly settling a sacred question. All the same, the one-off square-offs that we get do skew reptilian. Kong concludes the first brawl by playing dead, and his tool-assisted victory in round 2 is short-lived after Goji gets a second win. Cooler-headed meme lords were right when they called this game after all. Narratively, though, Kong takes center stage. His counterpart having already received the build-up of 2 films, Godzilla's mostly out of sight and out of mind when not bringing the beat down, while Kong is given emotional depth and a more expanded backstory. Still, presumably immeasurable body count notwithstanding, the tone is like a leather windbreaker, intense yet breezy. One of the first shots is Kong scratching his hairy hiney in a positively Shrekish manner. It's sincere, thank God, but it recognizes the absurdity of its premise, and so you won't find many DCEU-grade gestures at profundity. Granted, Batman vs. Superman walked so this script could run, but what we have here is no trend chaser. It's just a movie that knows that watching big monsters beat the snot out of each other is as much of a draw now as it was half a century ago. From Hollow Earth to genetic memory to a psychic command center operated out of a giant skull wired with RGB lighting, the story mashes together even more zany concepts with a full steam ahead zeal that will make Hideo Kojima take notes. Suffice to say, we've come a long way from just swatting at or atop skyscrapers. Yet it's all in service of 2 timeless goals. Get the super duper power source, and let's watch these 2 wild animals fight. It's acceptable, then, that the flesh and blood cast aren't given much of substance to say, and the deepest these people get is when they're plummeting to the center of the earth. They're mostly audience members right along with us, lending a hand here and there, but otherwise just commentating in a very broad, matter-of-fact way. The relationship between Rebecca Hall's Kong Whisperer and the mute indigenous girl, both caretakers of the big ape in a different way, approaches something like compelling drama. Still, I struggled to remember anyone's names, including the ground-level villain whom I mentally denoted as Diet Ricardo Montalban. Some folks show up so briefly that it's either unintentionally funny, such as when noted loaf of white bread Kyle Chandler literally phones in his scenes, or ironically distracting, as when Lance Reddick appears for but a single shot. Now, this is actually the second time that he starred in sci-fi media involving an organization called Monarch, so maybe he got deja vu and backed out. The exception to this rule is the B-plot, where MBB is road tripping it to Apex HQ. Her nerdy friends provide plenty of comic relief, which balances out the blandness of Kong's handlers, but Millie seems miscast as a tinfoil-hatted teen. Also, maybe it's just seeing the actress infiltrate a neon-drenched secret facility with a crew of misfits, but this whole side mission bears some strong Stranger Things vibes. But it's not all about nostalgia. Foregrounding a Titan Truth podcast is a comic touch that deftly modernizes this go of the MonsterVerse. Yet I can't decide if it's precious or painfully apt to imply that in a world where enormous ancient monsters are a known reality, it's corporate malfeasance that's the elite cover-up. The film's most iconic image is unquestionably the Hollow Earth. It's an old-fashioned lost world of mythic beasts meets the hostile inverted space of Inception or Interstellar. Or to compare another cinematic universe, it's like the Mirror Dimension in Doctor Strange or Inner Space in Ant-Man. Or, well, the Hollow Earth in Aquaman. A trippy alternate reality ripe for further expeditions if the box office receipts bear it out. However, it's unclear how widely known Hollow Earth is topside or how it functions. Even assuming our players just roll with things to keep the mood light, the existence of hovercrafts that can fly through a Jupiter and beyond the infinite-esque barrier into what's essentially a parallel universe goes relatively unquestioned. And once you're down there, where is the sun? Is there just a hole somewhere in Canada that it shines in from? Kong's lordship is also literalized when we see him sit upon an honest-to-goodness stone throne, but the specifics of his reign, as well as how his lineage got from here to Skull Island, are deferred to further sequels. In the meantime, though, don't go in expecting subtlety. Every location change, and there are many, even if it's just to a new green screen, is announced with a big yellow title card, a flourish for which I'm a sucker in any globetrotting adventure. The opening 2 presents a collage of documents about the Hollow Earth, the Titans, and Godzilla's kill count, bringing us up to speed on previous films. And when it gets going, exposition is fast and frequent. "If he leaves, Godzilla will come for him," is one of the first lines, and a jump to the second act immediately after that wouldn't leave many questions unanswered. There's some historical hat tips, such as a college being named Denham University, but even the films from a couple of years ago are flexible components of the present timeline. I passed up a chance to re-watch the last 2 Godzillas before this, so I don't remember how well regarded he was prior, but in any event, it beggars belief that people would be astonished that a nuclear dinosaur might have loose allegiances. We also don't learn enough about Apex up front to believe that anyone would bear them goodwill. As a fusion of Cyberdyne and Google, they're portrayed as shady from minute 1, and so any ruminating about Godzilla's intentions in vaporizing their property feels pretty moot. Alright, I got a lot of stray thoughts on this one. The giant glowing bone axe which Kong acquires for his rematch with Godzilla makes the movie, no question. It's an outright fantasy element that evokes God of War more than God of Zilla, but the suggestion that it draws its power from the same source as Goji does well to link the two together, as well as level the playing field by ensuring it's not a total boxing match. When the Apex henchmen officially go mask off, it's by downloading power from the center of the Earth. I should have just sent Kong down there with a thumb drive. Also, the third act has King Kong in Hong Kong. I can't really think of a joke for that, but I wish the screenwriter had tried all the same. As many expected, the final baddie is Mechagodzilla, initially piloted by a telepathic link and later acting of its own volition just cuz. No matter, because seeing Kong and Godzilla team up to take him down is predictable in theory but outrageously fun in, well, execution. When Kong is transported to the Hollow Earth portal, he's sedated at least once and later hoisted aloft in a giant net, and I would have paid double my ticket price to see how they pulled that off. Alexander Skarsgård is well cast, having ample experience communicating with great apes. We learn that Kong speaks sign language, which humanizes him while also paralleling the capabilities of real gorillas. But I was holding out for some non-verbal trash talk. There's a joke about eating Tide Pods early on, in case anyone doubted this film's release got delayed by the pandemic. What is seemingly a dedicated Godzilla siren goes off at one point, which puts the shoe on the other foot when it comes to the cinematic legacy of extremely specific alarms.
Plumber alert.
The Millie Bobby Brigade takes an elevator to sub-level 33 in one scene, so I was a little surprised when they didn't emerge in a Disneyland dinner club. For their part, that group's contribution to the climatic fight is accidentally spilling whiskey on a computer, which partially disables Mechagodzilla. Drinking will kill ya, I guess. At the climax, an unconscious Kong is revived by the use of a spaceship as a defibrillator, which is the kind of ludicrous solution I tuned in for, but also wastes an opportunity to have Kong restart his own heart with a good chest beating. The little meat girl encourages Kong to buddy up by signing Godzilla not enemy, which certainly would have saved us a lot of time if she had tried that in the first act. Also, according to the credits, there was footage from Lethal Weapon 2 in this, which I don't remember, but maybe I went to the bathroom when Kong invoked diplomatic immunity. And, just on principle, I got a DACA point for not casting Brendan Fraser again. Overall, I'd give this film a 6.5 out of 10. It's a contemporary cinematic universe versus, sure, with all the tropes that entails, but King Kong and Godzilla have been in this game since before a single Marvel movie hit screens, and they still got it. It's loud, colorful, and nonsensical, but never insincere. It honors its history, but it also knows which new tricks to learn. If I want to rewatch a Western kaiju flick, it'll probably always be Pacific Rim, but the primal smashing action figures together thrill of this latest entry is well worth the price of admission. But if you want to pay that price at the concessions counter instead of from the comfort of your own home, exercise caution accordingly. I sit before you humbled, for scarcely a day after I visited my local cinema for GVK's debut weekend, I came down with a real bummer of what I hope was just a head cold. Where I once felt thrills, I now only felt chills, and had a sore throat and a headache as bad as if I'd been choke-slammed into a mountainside myself. This is the rare film where I missed not having a full theater, if only so I could feel Kong was hearing it from the crowd when he got back up for the final fight, but seeing as I apparently caught something from only about half a dozen people being in the building at the time, perhaps a solo screening would have been prudent. Regardless, with vaccine drives rapidly becoming an all-access event across the nation, I've got my fingers crossed that summer blockbuster season will arrive right on schedule, and this won't be the last epic feature film I see in 2021. Should that end up the case, though, I'd be proud to say I had a monstrously good time, and I'll always be here to share my thoughts on what comes next.